Hello friends, I am Chevee. Welcome to my shed. How are you today? How's life in your world? How's things where you are? I hope it's fantastic. Ignore that. We'll talk about that tomorrow. Because today, I promised you I would talk about this. What this is. This pen and these D6, these D10s, and this pencil. Not the pencil. I'm not using the pencil. Pencil is for that. No, seriously, this. Whatever this is. This thing I've been saying I don't want to talk about, but I'm going to talk about. I'm not going to talk about this in particular in detail, but I can tell you a little bit about what it is because I want to talk about the way I've been creating this. This is a very, extremely rough prototype of an idea I've been carrying around for a very long time, possibly most of my life. And I have tried to bring to fruition in various ways over the years. And I think I've hit it. I think I found a version of this that can exist in a relatively short period of time, and that can be of a quality that I'm okay with sharing with the world. This particular thing, again, rough prototype. This is more like a proof of concept than even what it's going to be. This is a solitaire dungeon crawling open world RPG. That's a lot. It's a lot to say. If you remember, if you've been here long enough, and you go back 4, 5, 3, I don't know, go back a number of years, or go to my website and look back a number of years at my posts, you will find that I was working on a generation tool to create fantasy weapons and gear and magical items and rooms. And the intention with that tool was to possibly turn it into a sort of text-based adventure game that was random. So you would randomly encounter things. Like the tool would literally generate new rooms, new items. Like it would generate stuff. But in that generation of stuff, some of it was predefined and some of it would unlock new areas, which would then get included in the randomness. So not everything that you encountered would be genuinely, like, generically or randomly generated. It would be that, some of the stuff, like, there was a story to it. So it wasn't just room after room after room of randomness. There was something happening as you went through this story. This, what I'm looking at here, is a physical version of that. The computer version, I took it way too far because I had the computer tools available to me, meaning that I could have many, 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 many layers to figure out combat and all that sort of stuff. I don't need any of that. So this is just the story part. And the interesting part about this is I've been doing it with AI. Now, that's not interesting at all. In fact, there are many, 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 many. If you go look on the App Store of any of your phone or even on Steam or whatever, you will find many AI-based text adventure games where the AI is just creating stuff out of the ether for you to encounter. And they mostly suck. Most of them are terrible. You can also find solitaire RPGs that have AI tools that you can use for idea generation. And a lot of times in a solitaire RPG, you are kind of coming up with the story as you go, but you need to come up with the story as you go. And you need to pretend like you don't know the story because you're the player and the GM. There are lots of games that now use AI tools to help you generate ideas or help kind of be a game master for you when you're not feeling particularly creative, or maybe you're just not a creative person in that way, and you don't want to be, and you want to just experience a shared made-up world where you get to influence the way the world works. This is none of those things. But here's the deal. This is a project of a scope that's big enough that it's almost impossible for me to even start, because this is 100 random or 100 generated rooms, just room descriptions. For instance, the illuminated chamber. This room is bathed in a soft golden light from enchanted crystals embedded in the walls. A doorway to the right leads to a passage, while a wide archway ahead opens to a larger room. A benevolent NPC, a wise old wizard, resides here and offers cryptic advice. That was written by AI, not Chevee. I needed 100 of those to even start trying this. And there's a basic reason why. Because that's what 2d10 generates. 0 to 99. 100 rooms. So, this isn't a solo RPG. I mean, it is, but not what I just described as a solo RPG. This isn't a board game, but it is. This isn't a adventure booklet game, but it is. It's kind of a little bit of everything. And I think I unlocked how to make it work. And so the fascinating part is, I can get this system working without me having to write a word of it. Because I can just use this as a, just whatever. Like, part of this is, I've always struggled with designing solitaire games because they often, to me, feel like, unless there is a narrative, they feel like you're just pushing numbers and cubes around like a Euro game, and then you're trying to narrate the results. And while that can be interesting and entertaining, and especially in a journaling adventure game way, you can end up writing a cool story based on all of that. I find myself disconnecting from it. I find myself not really being pulled into the world of it. And so while I could sit down and create 100 random rooms of just mechanics, it's not fun to play that. This 100 random rooms is just a start. It's just a way for me to figure out if my mapping system works, because mapping is a part of this game. Drawing the map is a part of the game. You're going to have to do it to play the game. That's why I said this isn't like anything else I've ever seen. It's a little bit of everything. It's a little bit of dungeon design. It's a little bit of role-playing. It's a little bit of a board game where you're going to have, where there's cards that affect your stats, and you can use those stats to help you in future challenges, or you can use those cards to help bypass certain things. You have to make a decision. Do I want to bypass this? Do I want to take damage? Do I want to whatever? It's a resource management sort of situation. But for me, I needed to see this working. And the daunting task of writing a novelization worth of material to see if it works or not was just not possible. I wasn't going to do the work. And I've been stewing on this idea, literally this exact thing, for at least 5 years now. Maybe 4 years. It was during maybe it's only 3 years. Whatever. Go look and see when No Rogues Allowed started. Go to NoRoguesAllowed.com and check out the Mad Lib sort of room generation stuff I have there. That was this. That was a version of this, and that story or that idea was from long before this. I've had this idea. I wanted to write my own choose your own adventure book when I was a toddler. Maybe not a toddler, but at least a preteen. I read all of the choose your own adventure books I could get my hands on at the school library. I learned about British game books like the Lone Wolf series and the stuff that Peter Jackson did. Things that I sought those out here because I wanted to try those. I've always been fascinated by this. Tunnels and Trolls by Flying Buffalo had solo modules, like RPGs that you could play through. Narrative RPGs. And I've always wanted a way to make a random RPG, but that has a story. There is a beginning, middle, and end. And there will be in this. There is a story along with this. If you've played any of Ryan Laukatt's games, obviously I'm playing Sleeping God's Distant Skies right now. That's a huge influence on this. And I think that No Rogues Allowed was hugely inspired by the first sleeping gods. And so that's obviously part of the drive to do this right now. But what I'm finding is, to bring this back to the AI discussion, I needed these 100 rooms. But more than that, I need to know what happens inside these rooms. So what I've been able to do is, on my phone, I have Gemini. I can figure out where I'm going. I'm now going to 81. Let's see what's in 81. 81 is the Infernal Forge. This room houses a blazing forge and molten metal flowing into intricate molds. The air is scorching and filled with the smell of a burning metal. To the left, a narrow passage, blah, blah, blah. Something like a fire elemental or a group of fiery forge spirits guards the forge and may challenge intruders. I now can use that as a prompt for Gemini to give me a more robust explanation of what happens in this room. I can tell Gemini to give me choices. What are my choices here as a player? And it's been fantastic at that. It'll say you should attack the fire elemental, or you should run, or you should investigate the forge. Cool. That's exactly what I need, because this game is going to involve those branching paths. This game is going, and I'm not sitting here having to write it. I will, once I know that this system works, because there's more to it than what I'm explaining to you right now. Once I know it works, then I can sit down and write 100 rooms. And I can write multiple versions of all the encounters in those 100 rooms. And I can come up with the special items that I need to unlock things and to solve puzzles and to bypass puzzles. And I can figure all that out later. But right now, I need to know, does this game even work? Am I even invested in it? Am I interested in it? And using AI tools, it's been phenomenal. It's been so good for this process. I don't feel the barrier of me having to sit for days, weeks, months writing just so I can try it. I can try it right now. And I can tell you that this is not going to be the theme. This is not going to be the content is going to be vastly different than this. But for testing things that I know and things that I know that AI knows. AI knows fantasy very well. And it doesn't have to make up craziness. We can just use regular old fantasy world. And AI can do that real well. And it's actually been really fun. So I'm going to keep plugging in on this, and we're going to see what happens. Again, like most things I do, probably won't result in anything. I'm going to try really hard, though, and I'm going to keep the project rolling. We'll figure out, in a few months if there's something that I can share with you. Lots of win today. That's it. That's what I'm working on right now. I like the inspiration. This I'll tell you about tomorrow because there's something that goes along with this. Can you guess what it is? Try a guess in the comments. Thank you for being here as always. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, being amazing friends and wonderful people. I really appreciate you, and I'll see you tomorrow. Today's word you should know sounds smart is one I'm very familiar with. A yokel. It's a noun meaning a gullible inhabitant of a rural area. A human being is the yokel par excellence, the booby unmatchable, the king dupe of the cosmos. H.L. Mencken, an American magazine editor, essayist, and critic. Yokel, Y-O-K-E-L. I've heard that word my entire life. I live in yokel land, West Virginia. There's yokels everywhere.